Grand Theft Auto Vice City was released on October 27, 2002 to rave reviews. It was a highly anticipated follow-up to Rockstar's previous open-world game, Grand Theft Auto 3, which had only come out just 1 year before on October 22, 2001. The fact that a game like Vice City could be developed and finished within a year is quite a feat. And while many resources from GTA 3 were reused, they still had to do things like remodel weapons and vehicles, write a new script with new actors cast in the roles, and design a completely new map all in a year's time. You don't see this often out of many companies these days, especially with Rockstar. GTA 5 was released in 2013, and we never saw another game out of them again until Red Dead Redemption 2 a few months ago. Games are taking longer to develop these days, but even in the days of Vice City, deadlines still had to be met. And with there being only a little over a year between GTA 3 and Vice City, it meant that much of what may have been planned from the start wouldn't see the final cut of the game. Several missions were cut, as well as a few weapons according to what's been found in the files so far, and the map has changed greatly in a year's time. One of the initial beta maps found shows loads of differences between what they had in mind during this stage of development and what we ended up getting in the final game, but I don't want to focus on that right now. What I did want to focus on in this video is something that isn't seen on this map, but it is mentioned in an unused line of text in the game which was first published on GameFAQs by Robert Allen Rusk back in 2006. This guide, published by Rusk, showcases unused text that was hidden within the game's files rather than being completely removed. Some of this text includes extended versions of the cutscenes that we already have, but others include extra missions that were cut. One of the cut missions was for Burt Reynolds' character, Avery Carrington. The text reads as follows. A representative of mine needs chaperoning out to the Gator Keys. I'm after some land that way, so I'm sending someone out there to sweeten the deal. Could you do me a favor and make sure he gets there okay? I think the first thing you'd realize from this, especially if you're a big fan of Vice City, is the fact that the Gator Keys is an area that doesn't actually exist in the game. Just going from the name alone, I think we can assume that this was an area that was going to be based on the Florida Keys, which is a chain of islands off the southern coast of Florida, stretching from the southern part of Greater Miami all the way to Key West. So what would this mean for the Gator Keys? Well, we unfortunately don't have much information to go on besides the name and a few other small but important things that I'll get to in a bit. Most likely, though, the Gator Keys would have resembled the Florida Keys in some way. It probably would have been a small chain of islands to the south or southwest of Vice City itself, and going from the sounds of it and how Avery is interested in land there, it's probably sparsely populated. There might be a reference to this mission and the area it was meant to take place in on the in-game radio. One of the radio stations features an ad for new property development by Avery called Shady Acres. Have a listen to a portion of it.
I'm Avery Carrington. Shady Acres is an incredible, upscale, state-of-the-art, top-notch condominium development. A short drive out of town on some pristine wetlands, away from the noise and uninvited diversity of the city.
Shady Acres is an area that is nowhere to be found in Vice City. And all satire aside, notice how he mentions that it's a short drive out of town on wetlands, and it's implied that it's some distance from the city itself. What would the Gator Keys have looked like though, and how would it connect to the rest of the map? Well, to start with, the Florida Keys in real life are mostly made up of palm trees, beaches, forested areas, a few residential areas here and there, and then Key West, a small city all the way at the end of it. I doubt that there would have been something based on Key West. More than likely it would have been small beach islands, maybe a small forest or swamp-like area, and possibly a small neighborhood of some kind. As far as where it would connect with the rest of the map, this is where it gets a little tricky. The one beta map that we have does not show anything relating to the Gator Keys, it's just a different version of the map we actually got. This tells me that the Gator Keys might have been cut pretty early in development. In real life, the Florida Keys connect to South Florida via a bridge on Card Sound Road and also the Overseas Highway. Most likely, the Gator Keys would have had a similar connection to the rest of Vice City, and a screenshot released by Rockstar before the game came out seems to show some kind of road connection that looks very similar to a span of the 7-mile bridge. Look closely at the radar. There appears to be a series of roads passing over water, and the way they're laid out appears to be very similar to how the Overseas Highway is laid out in this portion. No road layout like this exists in the current game, or even in the initial beta map. No bridges are this close to each other, and they also aren't going the same direction as any of the bridges that exist in the game. The only explanation is that this could likely be the highway that once led to the Gator Keys. It's worth noting that they also appear to be heading southwest of the city, similar to how the Florida Keys and Overseas Highway are southwest of Miami. There also appears to be a third bridge at the bottom of the radar. If my theory is correct about the two bridges here being Vice City's equivalent to the Overseas Highway, then it's possible that the third bridge is based on the Bahia Honda Rail Bridge, which is adjacent to this section of the 7 Mile Bridge located between West Summerland Key and Bahia Honda Key. It could also be based on a disused portion of the 7 Mile Bridge, which was decommissioned when the new span was built and was later featured in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie True Lies. So the next question that remains after all of this is, where would this connect to the rest of the city? I know some have speculated that this screenshot shows a bridge that might have been it, but when you go to this location in the game, you'll see that it's actually just the bridge to the Leaf Links golf course. It even appears this way in the cutscene when the camera faces north in the direction of the bridge. Why did the golf course in Starfish Island not appear in the cutscene then? Because this is a PS2 game from 2002, it's not going to have amazing draw distance. Just look at how everything slowly loads in as you get closer. My initial guess was that the Gator Keys connected to the big stretch of road on the west island of Vice City, referred to in the game as the mainland, mainly since both connections to the Florida Keys in real life connect to the far southern portion of the greater Miami area, and to the actual mainland of Florida, not the island of Miami Beach. But when you look at a map of Vice City, you'll see this road right next to the airport that splits up and runs all the way to the far southern end of the map. When you actually go here in the game, the first half branches into a freight and cargo building for the airport. The second half of the road keeps running until it ends very abruptly. There isn't even a curb or any kind of indication that the road ends. It literally just cuts off, and there's a set of stairs leading to a small dock that isn't even used in the game. And when you look at the direction of the road that it heads in before cutting off, it follows the same general southwest direction of the roads that we saw on the radar, and where the Florida Keys are located in real life. While this is just an assumption, it's very possible that this could have been the road that once led to the Gator Keys. On the beta map, it looks like the road isn't as long, but nonetheless, it still leads in the same direction. And keep in mind that the airport was extensively redesigned between then and the final map, and a lot of things could have changed over the course of development. One more potential factor that could tie into the area being cut might have to do with how Burt Reynolds got along with the Rockstar staff during the recording sessions. According to the book Jacked by David Kushner, Reynolds' attitude was less than stellar during the recording sessions. At one point, he threatened to fight Dan Houser, the producer of GTA Vice City and co-founder of Rockstar Games. Houser was ready to cut Reynolds from the game entirely over this, but Naveed Kansari, the director of the voiceover sessions, assured Houser that enough material had been recorded by this point. Is it possible that after recording all of the main storyline dialogue for Avery, that they didn't want to have to work with Burt Reynolds anymore and simply figured that this mission and that part of the map were expendable? Hell, for all we know, the Gator Keys wasn't even something they had in mind to begin with. It could have been an area that they might have wanted to add halfway through development before realizing that they wouldn't even have enough time to finish it. And unless someone from Rockstar who worked on Vice City can shed some light on this, we'll probably never truly know the full details about it. But nevertheless, it's still fun to speculate.